I'd like to welcome Danielle Antes. How are you, Danielle?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Oh, thank you. All the way from, well, I say all the way, it depends on where people are watching from, but for me, all the way from New Jersey. We were just talking about some various places I've been, but that's a different show entirely. So Danielle is the Director of Talent Acquisition at Emerald.
I am.
Tell us, for those that aren't aware, please, a bit about Emerald and also expand on the role.
Sure. So I'm Director of Talent Acquisition at Emerald. Emerald is very heavy in the trade show and conference production space. We do some smaller niche B2B events, some B2C focus as well, but very heavy on trade show and conference production, as well as trade publications on the content side.
Excellent.
And I manage recruiting across the board for everything here.
And must be a very busy time. And we're going to come and talk about that in a minute. And also congratulations. I know like a lot of companies or trade show organizers that we're back to business in a lot of areas. And I'm sure it's been great to be back on site.
It absolutely has been. I spent 6 days at New York now in August, and there is no feeling like being on a trade show floor. It was wonderful.
Absolutely. I mean, this is great, sort of, but we can't replicate that serendipitous moment of bumping into people. We obviously spoke beforehand about the topics we're going to cover. I'm going to throw a slight curveball in here. On your LinkedIn profile, Danielle, it says, "I love what I do. Do you?" Or words to that effect. Being in the role that you're in, do you think it's important that people like what they do on a daily basis? And actually, do you think it's even more so now as we come through the pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. And, some of the topics we're going to cover are definitely going to get into this, but I think now more than ever, it is so important to at least have a personal investment in what it is that you do day to day. I think candidates have really reprioritized what's important to them about their careers, and the pandemic has really made a lot of us kind of look inward around what's important. And a lot of people are seeking out new opportunities because they want that personal connection. They want that feeling of, I'm doing something impactful and I really like what I'm doing, where I'm spending 8+ hours every day.
Sure, makes sense. And you've been within recruitment and talent acquisition for a few years. I'm not going to say many years, that'd be rude. Why do you love what you do?
I love the ability to make connections with people. I talk to hundreds of candidates every month, and each one has a really unique story with really amazing different strengths and interests. And to me, it's like a giant puzzle. It's, being able to figure out where that person can best use their strengths, hopefully with us. But if not, helping to make that connection and have them fit somewhere else. Job searching is super stressful. And if I can be a positive light in that process, that's my goal.
Sure, and I guess it's really rewarding as well, right? Because if you take someone on board that's at the start of their journey, or even at any stage, you're really helping with their development personally, and it must be rewarding. You must have seen people come in and gone from strength to strength, and that must be a rewarding characteristic of the job.
Absolutely. I remember some of my first hires earlier in my career, and following their progress, seeing where they've landed, it's like, I did pretty good. Like, that was a good hire. Okay.
Good for you. How is the market at the moment? I look at Emerald's LinkedIn profile in the job section. There's over 50 posts, and there's lots of jobs all over the place. How are things as we sort of build back, if you like, post-pandemic?
Yeah, things are busy, as like the understatement of the century. I think a lot of teams in the event space are in the same boat where, we came back in a huge way in August. We had over 20 shows that staged at Emerald, which is massive for us. So it's not only a matter of making sure that we're building for the growth that we're aiming for in the future, but also getting back up to those pre-pandemic team levels too. And then add on top of that it is an extremely active candidate market right now. People who are super happy with their jobs and love what they're doing, they're still taking a look to see what's out there. So like I said, I think a lot of people have reprioritized what's important to them in their job, and there's a lot of opportunities out there for them to take a look at. So busy is an understatement with how we feel in recruiting across the board right now.
I think, we share the same sentiment. Obviously, as I said, I'm doing some work for TF Connect in event recruitment myself. And, lots of roles coming on board. Not always so many candidates. So I don't know if you're finding that. And do you think the pandemic has maybe sent some people away from the industry that might have been in it or were looking at it before?
That's a really great question. I actually chatted with our people and culture team about this because I was curious what feedback they were getting from people leaving, and it doesn't really seem to be the case. I think there is a lot of movement within our own industry, people moving to other events providers for whatever reason, but I think there's also a lot of people coming from other industries into the event industry. So for every person who decides to try something somewhere else, there's another person who's interested in getting into this space. So I don't think we're any less attractive than we were pre-pandemic.
Sure. And actually you make a good point about other industries. So again, lots of people that I've had on the show, obviously a lot of trade show organizers and other organizers of other events have had to turn their attention to digital and omni-channel and 365 campaigns and every other cliched word that I can come up with. But that means their existing teams have had to learn new skills, but also they're looking to recruit from different areas that have got maybe digital skills. Is Emerald doing that? Are you finding that as well? Are you trying to reach out to different business sectors?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's always the benefit of having someone who knows the trade show, conference, kind of trade publication space, but especially I'm seeing a lot in marketing, definitely in sales too. That digital is really the buzzword these days. And it's, for us, it's really about data literacy, being able to understand what data is being presented, how to read it, how to frame it, and then an understanding of technology and how it can augment all of our processes here.
Sure. And so you mentioned obviously sales and marketing, and I know you look after, I guess, the whole gamut of disciplines that make up shows and publications. Are you finding any variances in the appetite in the market, between sales or marketing? Is it easier to recruit one discipline over the other? What's your view?
I think it depends on the nuance of the role, to be honest. I'm not seeing any broad functional areas that are easier to bring in than others. I think each role has its own specifications, and that's what makes it challenging in one way or the other. If there's something specific that we're looking for, an industry experience or X number of years with a certain technology, that's where the challenge comes in, is again, putting those puzzle pieces together. Yeah. But I really haven't seen any specific functional areas that are tougher than others these days.
Makes sense. And what about the sort of level of and seniority of role? Are you finding there's a lack of talent at a certain level, or? But again, I understand it depends on role and discipline. But what's your view in that regard?
Yeah, it depends on the role, but I think we continue to do really well with bringing in junior talent, so that kind of entry level positions. Lots of people really eager to get into the event space. I do find also that we do fairly well on senior talent, people who have been in this space really since the beginning. And I think that mid-level is where we struggle sometimes, is, making sure that we're able to utilize all of the skills that someone's bringing to the table in a great way, and be able to do that at kind of that manager, account executive type level.
Sure. And you would accept, obviously, I'm sure it's a great place to work at Emerald, but other people in your position at other similar businesses will say the same about theirs.
Exactly.
And I guess to a certain extent, it's a candidate-led market. So what things are you doing, maybe perhaps slightly differently? What strategies are you now using, or additional strategies, to make sure that you can attract the best talent and they come to you rather than somewhere else?
That's a great question. And I think the biggest thing, and one thing that I'm really proud of that we've done so far at Emerald, is really kind of humanizing the company, really showing what our values are, how we live them, what's important to us, and really starting to bring that feeling of being at an event to life, get people really excited about what we do and how we do it. And all of that's a little bit unique to Emerald, showing clips from Outdoor Retailer or Surf Expo. They're really exciting brands, and that gets people really interested in the company. So being able to highlight our individual people here, and how we value them, I think has been a really, really great tool for us so far.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And a lot of people are telling me that from a candidate perspective, that they're also looking for, I guess, the softer benefits. So yeah, look, obviously pay and all that sort of stuff, right, that's a hurdle that you'll jump. But actually, if they're making a decision between two businesses, okay, and they're happy with the pay and the I guess like the general stuff, what other things are candidates looking for, and maybe do you offer? So someone said to me, one company's offering, when it's their birthday, you can have a day off and this sort of stuff. Are you finding sort of like other softer approaches that you're including in your packages?
Yeah, so more generally, I think there's a few things that we offer. Number one is a really big focus on wellness. We have a Headspace subscription for all of our employees. So get everyone to take a couple minutes, do some breathing exercises, do a little bit of meditation. I think the other piece is really just the high emphasis we place on flexibility here. And it's a matter of, we offer our unlimited vacation here. You're not tied to a certain number of days every year that you have to use. And I think we leave a lot of, we make some overarching guidelines for when we need people in the office and things like that, but we leave a lot up to the teams to decide what works for them. So, someone can feel comfortable if their kid's home sick or they have a doctor's appointment during the day. We understand that, those things happen, and we offer a lot of flexibility for people to work around it. And honestly, I think that's one of the biggest things that candidates are looking for these days, especially as companies are driving people back into the office. It's, the trust and the understanding that you're an adult. We trust you to do your work. If you're doing it from home or you're doing it in the office, either way, as long as it's getting done.
I was going to ask you about working from home. Because obviously, again, some companies I talk to, they are like, right up until Christmas, happy for people to do 2 days a week or in the office, 3 at home. Post Christmas, it's going to be all in the office. Or if it's sales, I want them in the office from now. If it's marketing, not. What's your view on that as a business? How are you sort of managing that conversation with existing staff and I guess new talent?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're still in a hybrid setup right now, moving to about 2 days a week in the office for our in-office staff. I'm clearly at home right now. Most of our staff.
I was going to say, it'd be a nice office. But
it would be a nice
home.
But get a nice fireplace in the winter. I think being in the business that we're in, we can't understate that importance of the ability to be there in person, drive those connections, have that collaboration effort. So it is a really big part of our culture that we do eventually want to have an emphasis on being back in the office for the people who were there pre-pandemic. But again, we're doing that in a flexible way to make sure that people not only feel safe getting back to the office space, but that they can do it in a way that still allows them to keep some of these newfound things that they've found during COVID and some of that better work-life balance that people really need.
No, it makes sense. And obviously we've got the tools now to, do town hall meetings and get-togethers and obviously, virtual, which I'm sure a company the size of Emerald, how many employees do you have currently?
We're about 550 right now.
So it's significant. So I guess you've had to use tech for what it's there for over the last 18 months and continue to do so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking about tech, we were having a conversation sort of offline beforehand. Obviously you've written on this subject and there's been some recent articles on it. Talk to me about the use of tech in your role and screening candidates, because you've got 500 staff at the moment and you've probably got 50, 60 active roles at any one time. Should candidates feel worried that companies are using AI more and automated solutions rather than actually physically looking at the CVs?
So it's a really timely question. Wall Street Journal just had an article come out about this, and it was a little bit of a clickbait title, I'll say. So, but it was really focused on that, where they focused on these massive companies who are screening out candidates before a recruiter ever sees them through technology.
Right.
It's not how we do it here at Emerald. If you're applying to a job with us, myself or a member of my team is going to be looking at your resume, because as we've kind of been talking about fitting these puzzle pieces together, there are so many different ways that a candidate's experience could be a fit here. We never want to write off someone, if that role that they happen to apply for isn't the right fit. I don't think candidates need to be afraid that technology is preventing them from reaching the right eyes when they apply for a job. I think the core of it is still the same though. Present your best skills. If it's a match for the job, let's move forward. Whether that's myself screening or an AI tool screening, it's all about being able to present those right skills that are a match for the job at the end of the day. But there's also a bunch of really great tech that is supporting job seekers through that as well. On our side, we've been looking into a lot of tools that do things like our inclusive language in our job descriptions to make sure that anyone feels comfortable and anyone can see themselves at Emerald after reading one of our job descriptions, or using video to better explain what a role is and have a candidate be able to better understand what skills they do need in order to succeed in a role like that.
No, interesting. And that's actually, as an aside, diversity. So diversity, sustainability in the event space specifically, people have been talking about, we need to do that better and more, and how do we go about that? In your role, how do you think a business can be more diverse? And that could be obviously gender, ethnic origin, a whole range of things. But what do you do? Because also you don't, I guess I'm just talking off the top of my head, you don't want to positively discriminate. So how does that work?
So it is definitely a balance. I think the biggest thing that we can do as a recruiting team is remove barriers to entry. For us at Emerald, that was earlier this year, we removed the bachelor degree requirement from almost all of our positions. Talking about using this kind of tech that helps us use as inclusive language as possible. Keeping in the back of our minds that women are less likely to apply to a job if they don't meet 100% of the qualifications. How can we make sure that we're getting the right candidates in the door, but still making the opportunities accessible to as many people as possible? That's the best way that we can approach this. There's a million other programs we can get into, but I think that is really the core of it.
Makes sense. And talking about the candidates, and we've all watched and read and what the best things to put on a CV and how to do it and all this sort of stuff, but it's still very useful. Especially in this digital age. We could probably do a whole program on that, but in summary, what are the sort of things that you're looking for when a candidate is trying to present themselves to you, and how should they go about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'll get a million different perspectives on this topic. I'm sure you'll ask it in future sessions too, but for me, it's about drawing relevance to the role and to the skill set that we're looking for. You don't need to have 12 different resumes in order to do that. If you know what type of job you're targeting, develop a resume that highlights those skills in a really concise and just very clean way. These overly designed resumes often end up hurting candidates because it's hard to find the information that I'm looking for. That 6-second scan that most recruiters do when they look at a resume. It's true. I mean, we've got hundreds to go through. So I need to very quickly find what it is that I'm looking for. So that cleanness and that formatting, it is really important in a resume.
Yeah. And interesting enough, obviously I'm sitting here in the UK, but I know I've done some work in the States. I don't know if it's the same now, but do you have is there a sort of maximum number of pages? I mean, I'm sure in the States it used to be, you've got to get it on one page, where in the UK, it was almost like 3 or 4 pages acceptable. Is there a standard, or what's the...
Well, you talk about like a UK CV versus the American resume. Very different. I think it really depends on your background. If you're earlier in your career or your skills have been similar across your roles, 1 page should be totally fine. If you're deeper into your career, have done a lot of different things, 2 pages is great. Again, I need to know, I need to see very quickly what it is that you've done, what it is that you're trying to do, and is it relevant to what we have open?
Yeah, and I'm sure sometimes less is more, right? If you give too much away, it's not always relevant. So it's about getting through the door. Sorry?
You definitely don't need to know your life story in your resume. So keep it short and sweet is usually the best bet.
So resumes, CVs, in this day and age, digital day and age, they're still relevant as a tool, right? That is the main sort of screening tool that you use.
They have to be. I mean, LinkedIn is a fabulous resource as well. I think almost as important as a resume. So if you're an active job seeker, definitely build out that page. It's a really great opportunity to show a little bit of your personality and what's important to you in a still very professional way. So it's a great ad. And
what about your social footprint as individuals? So you do, internal recruiters or the talent acquisition teams. Would you look at someone's Facebook and Twitter feed and whatever else the kids are using? If it not just kids, anyone, Snapchat, whatever else people, Instagram.
You'll get a lot of feedback on this topic too. Personally, I don't care what's on your Facebook page, especially for my role in the process, which is kind of the entry point.
Sure.
I'm more, again, interested in what skills are you presenting? Do they match up with what we need? Awesome. Yeah. Let's have a conversation. I think Facebook is still a very private thing for a lot of people, but if you're posting something on there you don't want an employer to see, there's always a chance it's going to come out. So
yeah, I think that's a very diplomatic answer.
You are interviewing a company as much as they are interviewing you. And I think we've seen a lot of people, especially in this industry, who have been out of work for a while. We're really negatively impacted by COVID-19 and layoffs, and are feeling like they need to take something. But I think it is still very important for someone to really feel a connection to the company that they're looking for. We talk a lot about what candidates are looking for and flexibility, and it's great to be in that position to be able to choose, but think about it from a longer term perspective. You want to make sure you land somewhere that is a really good fit for you. So no matter how much you need a job, make sure you're asking the right questions. You do really want it to feel like a good fit at the end of the day.
Sure, I think that sort of comes full circle when we were talking about saying that you love what you do and it's important that other people sort of follow that mantra. So Danielle Antes, Director of Talent Acquisition at Emerald, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Dan.